Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to hear, it's going to shake you to the core. So everything they told you, it was a lie. The media, complicit. The White House, hijacked. And today it all flips. In fact, this morning, the United States House of Representatives passed what President Trump calls the one big beautiful bill. But what the media is now calling a direct threat to the globalist regime. Oh, and we need to talk about the $5,000 checks, right? Yeah. Are they on the table? How about the tax-free tips? Passed. And the border enforcement? Funded. But this is only half the story, guys, because just as Trump secures his biggest legislative victory yet, we're actually getting confirmation that Joe Biden's inner circle, his top aides, were secretly signing executive orders without his knowledge, using the autopen on classified directives. That, folks, is treason. And now the indictments are rolling out. In fact, so the real question here is this. Was Biden fit to lead? I mean, the real question, even beyond that, is who was really running the country and why are they just now being exposed? Now, in today's video, I want to go ahead and break it all down. What we now know, this is actually breaking news. What's inside of Trump's massive historic House victory. Also, why Biden's own people are under legal review for treason and whether those $5,000 Doge refund checks are finally coming. So do not blink, do not scroll. What happens next could literally define the future of this country. If you haven't already, if you appreciate the daily updates, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you, patriots. Let's go ahead and start with what the corrupt media just does not want you to understand. And I think it's pretty clear that that's the case here. This wasn't just a win. This was a political resurrection because against all odds, against all sorts of, every obstructionist Democrat and weak-kneed Republican, Trump's one big beautiful bill passed in the House of Representatives by a single vote. Just one vote allowed it to get through. It was passed at 215 voting for it to 214 voting it down. This is how close America came to losing this moment. Now, this wasn't just some skinny little budget tweak. This was a 1,000-page MAGA manifesto. Okay, so this is everything that they said Trump couldn't get done, and he just did it without a single Democrat vote. Why? Because Republicans used budget reconciliation to kind of ram it through with no filibuster, no delays, no compromise. This is the reversal. And Trump, he didn't just win a vote. He rewrote the battlefield. Now, of course, we need to talk about what exactly is inside this bill and why the media is calling it economic warfare against the swamp. But first, we need to break down what you just won, okay? So let's go ahead and open this beast up because what's inside this bill is pure America First fire. So first, you got the permanent 2017 tax cuts or the Trump 2017 tax cuts locked in. The left can't touch it. So no matter what, Trump's 2017 tax cuts are in there. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's right, you guys. So if you hustle, you get to keep every penny. No, zero federal tax. There's a $500 boost to the child tax credit in there. And $2,000 extra in your standard deduction for working families. You've got a state tax exemption raised to $15 million. No more punishing generational wealth. There is a SALT cap raised from $10,000 to $40,000 for families under $500,000. Huge win for red voters that are trapped in blue states. Border security fully funded. Guys, we're talking more ICE agents, more border patrol, and there's also more wall construction. There's a $700 billion cut from Medicaid waste with work requirements starting in 2026. And yes, banning gender affirming procedures for adults too, not just minors. That is also in there. Now, this is Trump delivering on everything he campaigned on and more. Now, can you guys think of anything that Trump campaigned on that is not in this list of bill items that I just mentioned. If you can think of anything that he missed, let me know in the comments right now. But the reason why this is so powerful isn't just the bill, it's the timing. Because while Trump was building this masterpiece in plain sight, Biden's team was busy forging orders with an autopen. And that's where the treason begins. So, of course, we need to dive into the truth behind the Biden puppet presidency, who was really running the country with Joe Biden, while he stumbled through these teleprompters, and why the word treason isn't an exaggeration. It's actually a legal direction. So stick with me, guys. All right. So here's the biggest question that I've seen in the comments. Where are those Doge dividend refund checks? Drop me a quick Doge dividend refund check if you want your $5,000 check today. Okay, so Trump wanted them in the bill. Elon Musk pushed for them, but the swamp, they yanked it out at the last second. Right now, the Department of Government Efficiency, aka Doge, has clawed back $170 billion in wasted government spending. Now, this is money the corrupt agencies didn't want you to see. $170 billion. So how much is that per household? Well, right now, that's roughly $430. That's not the $5,000 that we were hoping for, but it is a start. Now, the dream was 20% of $2 trillion in clawbacks equals $5,000 checks, but they haven't hit that number yet. And yet is the key word, okay? And so now Elon Musk, he's stepping back from Doge. He's shifting back, back and forth, but he's mainly focusing on Tesla now. So this is raising some serious concerns that the checks might never happen, right? Unless Trump issues an executive order himself. Now, let me say this very clearly, guys. If Congress won't finish the job, Trump can. And he's already said that he still wants it done. Now, we just need the pressure to stay on, okay? So the second major betrayal hiding in the shadows, the truth about Social Security, guys. But first, let me ask you this real quick. Real talk, guys. Let's just say they were ready to cut the checks today, right? But it's do or die, right? Would you accept $430 from the clawbacks today, or should we hold the line until we get all $5,000? Let me know in the comments, guys. I really want to hear from you. Now, Medicare can be a financial minefield, and one wrong decision could easily cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. But here's the good news. Chapter helps you to avoid that. Leslie Taylor, she called in recently, or actually she dropped a comment on a previous video. She actually saved $1,000 a year. She called Chapter, saved $1,000 a year, and then came back to the video where I suggested that, she should call Chapter just to let me know the good news. That was freaking amazing. So shout out to Leslie Taylor for that one. Sharon Bartusik, she lost her Medicaid altogether, but Chapter got her on a plan with zero premiums, zero cost meds, and copays reduced from $89 to just $20. Wow. Unbelievable, right? That's right, guys. Chapter's licensed experts, they check every plan out there. They make sure your doctor is covered, and it's 100% free to use. It's like, why are we not doing this already, right? So hit up the link in the description down below, askchapter.org/Ron. You can just click the link. Or if you rather just talk to someone on the phone like old school, that's cool too. You can reach them at 909-563-8279. So let's get back to this here. Like this one kind of stings. I ain't even gonna lie, because it really hits our seniors right where they live. President Trump, he campaigned, and let me know if you remember this, guys. President Trump campaigned on eliminating taxes on Social Security. He said it loud. He said it often. Do you guys remember that? Just drop a yes or no in the comments. But in this bill, no tax on Social Security provision. What we did get, though, is a $4,000 deduction for 90% of Social Security recipients, which helps a lot of lower income seniors, but it's not the full promise. So let's be honest, guys, this was a half measure. So why was the full relief not included? Well, I think it's pretty simple. Republican holdouts in Congress claimed that it would benefit too many high earners and it would cost too much. But here's the kicker, guys. These are the same people who sent hundreds of billions of dollars to the Ukraine. Did they not? They approved $267 billion in food stamp cuts, right? but they couldn't take taxes off of grandma's check. What's up with that? This is the kind of two-faced budgeting that the American people are done with. I'm trying to keep it PG here, guys. By the way, for those of you guys just now joining the live, hit the like button and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. And speaking of betrayal, get ready, guys, because up next, we cross into treason territory. The real story behind Biden's handlers, the forged orders, and why legal experts are now saying the T word out loud, guys. Treason indictments may not just be political theater. They may be next. So now, listen, this win wasn't clear. I mean, it wasn't clean. It wasn't easy. And it clearly wasn't unanimous. The MAGA movement had to drag some of these Republicans kicking and screaming across the finish line, right? Two so-called fiscal hawks, you got Thomas Massie and Warren Davidson, voted no. You guys wanted the names. There you go. There's some names for you, okay? Now, Andy Harris, the chair of the Freedom Caucus, voted present like it was some kind of a high school debate team, right? And let's not forget, a week ago, the bill was dead on arrival. Then all of a sudden, Chip Roy flips his vote. Why? Well, it's because President Trump showed up in person, not on some live stream, not through a press release. He walked in the Capitol Hill like a general leading troops into the battle. And he told the Republican Party, look, if you vote against this bill, you're not a Republican anymore. And guess what? That was the moment the tide turned. That was the reversal. Now, what we need to talk about is how the real meltdown wasn't on the right. It was actually on the left, because the Democrats, they did not handle this well. So let's talk about the panic on the other side of the aisle. You got House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries didn't just vote no. He called this bill Trump's one big ugly bill. Why though? Why the ugly words, right? Because this legislation hit everything the Democrats were using to control and divide the country. Guys, we're talking about Medicaid cuts, food stamp reductions, student loan limits, work requirements for government assistance, zero tolerance for illegal immigrants, soaking up federal benefits. They knew something was coming. They knew this bill was a nuclear strike on their dependency state model. So what did they do? Did they filibuster? Did they fight? Nah, they didn't do any of that. Jeffries barely even spoke. He had the chance to stall the vote using the magic minute trick, the same tactic that Kevin McCarthy used for like 8 hours to block Biden's Build Back Broke bill. But Jeffries, he muttered for like maybe 30 minutes and he just gave up, because deep down, he knew it was over. This wasn't just a policy loss. This was a transfer of power back to the people. But here's the twist. While Democrats were busy melting down publicly, they were hiding something privately. And what they were hiding, this was who was actually running the White House, or at least the Biden White House. So the treason that we were not supposed to see, guys, we're talking forged orders, fake signatures, stage 4 aggressive cancer cover-ups, and what Trump is calling the crime of the century. Guys, these indictments may be closer than we think. So what's happening behind the scenes is it's way darker than most Americans realize. Because while Trump was out building the strongest America First policy bill in a generation, Biden's inner circle was secretly running the country without him. Now, President Trump, he didn't mince words. He said it out loud and clear. He said, look, Joe Biden was not for open borders. It was the people who knew he was cognitively impaired who took over the autopen. They stole the presidency and they put us in great danger. This is treason at the highest level. Treason, not mismanagement, not incompetence, treason. Now, you comment down below. Who do you think was next in line running the country instead of Biden? Do you think it was more of a Jill Biden thing, or do you think it was more of a Obama running the country in his third term? Let me know which one you thought it was. So this wasn't just about Biden being old. This was about Biden being mentally gone, absent, logged out, checked out. His team was running wild with executive power. Trump says Biden never approved the policies, never signed the orders himself. They just slapped his name on it with a machine. That's not just shady. That is criminal, guys. They didn't elect those people. They elected Joe Biden. Technically, they didn't really elect him either, but I'm just saying. This is fraud at the highest level of government. And you know what? Trump is not alone in saying this, because now, shockingly, the media that spent years covering all this up, all of a sudden they're changing their tune. Why do you think that is? I mean, you remember when CNN, MSNBC, and their late night puppets told us Biden was sharper than ever? Y'all remember that, right? They gaslit America. They told you this version of Biden is the best Biden ever. Even as he mumbled, wandered, stared off mid-sentence, they said this guy was fine. They mocked everyone and anyone who questioned his fitness, even though he fell down multiple flights of stairs on the aircraft. But now the narrative is cracking. But why? Because this cover-up is no longer sustainable. The truth is obviously leaking through, and they're trying to save face here. Now, we got books exposing the internal chaos, the White House leaks admitting they operated like a board of directors, and journalists doing 180s saying maybe Biden was not in charge at all. Oh, now you realize that. Really? So now that the damage is done, now that the executive orders have gone through, now that the pardons have been issued, the borders were flooded, and our economy was wrecked, now you realize that. Now, let me ask you this, guys. If it's now confirmed that Biden wasn't signing those orders, if it's now obvious that those orders were making decisions under his name, then who exactly was president? Like, who authorized the open border surge? Who signed the executive actions? Was it Kamala Harris? Jill Biden? Was it Obama? And why isn't that person under criminal investigation yet? Well, we're going to go ahead and name some names, okay? Because the biggest scandal in U.S. history did not happen in some smoke-filled room. It happened in plain sight. So, who was really in charge of the Biden presidency when even Democrats are quietly panicking about what comes next, guys? So here's where the entire illusion falls apart. We now have direct confirmation from multiple insiders and whistleblowers and book excerpts that the White House was run like a boardroom, not a presidency, a corporate boardroom. And if Biden wasn't the CEO, then who was? Well, let's be clear. This was not about Biden needing help. This was about a president who, according to staff, was not making final decisions at all. Insiders are now saying that he was treated just as a board member, present but powerless. That's not just unethical, it's unconstitutional. Because the United States doesn't elect a board of directors. We elect a commander in chief, do we not? So here's the constitutional crisis. Who wrote the executive orders? Who deployed federal agents? Who authorized billions of dollars in spending? Because if Biden didn't have the capacity and his team made the calls under his name, that's not just manipulation. That is a hostile internal takeover of the executive branch. And it didn't stop there. So I'm going to share with you guys this bombshell medical timeline that raises even more red flags, because the deeper you dig, the darker it gets, guys. Now, let's talk about something that they really tried to bury. We now know that Biden's last documented PSA test, his prostate cancer screening, was back in 2014. Let me repeat that. 2014, when he was still vice president. Now, fast forward. In 2025, news breaks that Biden has stage 4 cancer, and nobody caught it. How is it possible that the most medically monitored position in the world, such as the president of the United States, how does this get passed? Two options. One, they didn't test him deliberately, or they tested him and they covered it up. In either scenario, it's horrifying. If you or I skipped yearly checkups and missed a cancer diagnosis, that's negligence, yes? But when the president of the United States goes unmonitored or the results get suppressed, that is national security negligence. Now, let me remind you, The White House has, it's got a full medical team. Basically, so Biden had access to the best diagnostics on earth. So how do you miss stage 4 cancer? Unless you weren't looking for it, unless the people around him knew and they hid it to keep the illusion alive. So we need to talk about why the 25th Amendment was never invoked on this guy, right? And how the same people who screamed it was, the same people who screamed it against President Trump back in 2018, they went dead silent under Biden for the same, regarding the same 25th Amendment. Now, you got to wonder why. Now, I'm also going to expose the double standard of the century, guys, so stick with me. And for those of you just now joining live, thank you for hitting the like button and for subscribing to the channel. Now, let me ask you this. Where were the calls for the 25th Amendment? When President Trump was perfectly capable, the media, the Democrats, and even members of his own staff whispered, plotted, and screamed for removal under the 25th Amendment. They claimed he was unstable, erratic, and unfit to lead. Y'all remember that, right? Drop a 47 in the comments down below if you remember that. But when Biden couldn't remember what year it was, when he stared blankly into the public, when his own handlers were signing orders for him, crickets. Where were the psychiatrists then? Where were the TV specials on mental fitness? Where was the press demanding action? They were nowhere to be seen, guys, because Biden was not in power. He was being used. And the 25th Amendment, it was never about protecting the Constitution. It was about protecting power. And that silence, that willful, dangerous silence, it makes every single enabler complicit. But here is the good news. Not everybody's staying silent anymore, because calls for a full-blown bipartisan investigation are now echoing through the halls of Congress. So it's not just political theater anymore. This is now a growing bipartisan demand for a full investigation. Republicans on fire, independents asking real questions, and even some Democrats are breaking ranks. Because let's go ahead and lay it out plainly here, guys. Who exactly used the autopen to sign executive orders? Who gave the green light? Were those actions even legal? And more importantly, did Biden even know about this? Or was he just too far gone to even understand? Well, if it is the latter, and they use his name and office without proper capacity, then every directive, every order, every declaration made without informed consent becomes an illegal act. That's not just political fraud. That is not just unethical governance. That is potential treason. And as of now, sources confirm that the DOJ is reviewing actions of senior Biden aides. The phrase treason indictments is no longer just a headline, guys. It is now a part of a legal conversation being had right now. So what we need to talk about is how the media ended up helping to cover it all up and why they may soon be forced to testify. Ladies and gentlemen, this web runs deeper than anyone thought. And all those heads that received pardons from Biden, they may be about to roll as those pardons get rolled back, possibly here. So now, if you think that Biden's betrayal stops at the White House, you would be wrong. Because the people who sold you the lie, who told you Biden was sharp, capable, and historic, they weren't wrong. They were part of it. And just let's talk about the media for a second. These people, they weren't just observers. They were enablers. For years, they were telling Americans, oh, everything's fine with Biden. That Biden's bizarre behavior was just a stutter. That his lack of public events was strategy. That his cognitive slips were endearing. Endearing? Meanwhile, anyone who dared question it got crushed, shadow banned on social media, censored on YouTube, labeled a conspiracy theorist. But now that the damage is done, now we get half-hearted articles admitting, yeah, maybe his team was running things behind the scenes. No, you don't get to rewrite history now. You don't get to admit the cover up after the country paid the price. The media didn't miss the signs. They covered them up. And if there is a federal investigation, you better believe these networks, these pundits, these fact checkers, they're going to be called to testify. Now, could treason indictments actually be coming? And who's most at risk here? Well, I want to name some names here. Anybody else want me to name some names? I want to name some names. And I want to close this thing out with everything you need to know here. So this ain't just smoke. There's an actual fire going on, and it's burning under the feet of Biden's inner circle. The DOJ has already confirmed that it's reviewing the chain of command inside the West Wing. So here's what's on the table right now. Forgery of executive documents, unauthorized use of presidential authority, medical concealment of presidential disability, obstruction of transparency laws. And yes, the T word is now active: treason. If top aides knowingly forged actions under the name of a medically unfit president, if they bypassed national security protocols, if they suppressed medical evaluations to stay in power, that meets the bar for high crimes and misdemeanors, and in some interpretations of law, treasonous abuse of authority. And who's in the blast zone? Well, some of the names being whispered right now include Ron Klain, Anita Dunn, Susan Rice, and Jake Sullivan. The architects of the autopen presidency, ladies and gentlemen, the ones who may soon be called to testify under oath. And the question isn't if they'll be held accountable. It's whether the American people are going to demand it. Now, this is your country, guys. If they can stage a presidency, if they can fake consent, if they can lie through every outlet, then nothing is unsafe unless we stand up. No? And that's why Trump's reversal wasn't just a legislative win. It was a signal that accountability is back on the table. So here's what I want you to do right now. Drop me a comment down below. Should Biden's inner circle face treason charges? Hit the like button to push this video through the YouTube algorithm so that we can get more people aware of what's really going on so that we can take action together. And I also want you to subscribe and turn on all notifications because this story is not over. So I'm going to be tracking the Senate's next move, executive actions on those Doge stimulus checks, and every DOJ leak that we can confirm. Guys, the reversal has begun. America is waking up. And I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Oh, and do not forget to reach out to our friends over at Chapter and see how much money they can save you on your Medicaid. Link in the description down below.